Well, there you have it. David Cameron, soon to be the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, just as soon as he makes his way from number 10 Downing Street, the residence of the Prime Minister, to Buckingham Palace, where he will present his resignation to Queen Elizabeth II, thereby becoming the former Prime Minister of Great Britain. There with his family, his wife Samantha, his 3 kids. Elizabeth Palmer is outside the Houses of Parliament in London, and she joins us now. Liz, I was just reading yesterday a tribute to David Cameron written by Anthony Selden, who's written a number of biographies of former PMs. Farewell to David Cameron, a very English and deeply emotional family man bows out.
Yes, he used that last speech to underline some of the achievements of his government. We've been through extraordinary turmoil here in Britain over the last few weeks, beginning with that Brexit vote. And so he has done everything he can to project stability. He made his exit very quickly. The new Prime Minister will be sworn in, or the equivalent, in about a couple of hours from now. And he used that speech to underline the fact that the economy has grown, that the government has achieved some signal social improvements, if you like, including same-sex marriage. So his whole thrust leaving office is continuity, stability, to try and reassure people who have been seriously worried by the fallout of the Brexit vote.
And Liz, although many people will say that David Cameron's legacy is the Brexit vote, there are many things that he pointed to in that speech, as you just said as well, from the National Health Service to the strengthening of Britain's defense.
Well, there was a little bit of political spin there. The truth is that the National Health Service has been seriously cut back under his government because after the banking crisis ended in 2008-9, this government said it was going to eliminate Britain's deficit, and that's meant serious cutting all over the place. So things are not quite as rosy as you may have alluded to there. There's a controversial vote coming up on the renewal of Britain's nuclear submarine fleet shortly. But in fact, he has presided over a gradual strengthening of the economy. As I said, same-sex marriage, the number of women MPs in Parliament has grown during his 1.5 governments, and it seems to be clear that the Conservative Party that he heads will continue to govern, because the incoming Prime Minister has said she's not going to have a general election until 2020.
And Liz, just for our viewers to see, we're just basically showing them an overhead shot of the Prime Minister's caravan making its way from 10 Downing Street on their way to Buckingham Palace, where they are going to meet the Queen Elizabeth II. He'll present his resignation there to her. We also saw David Cameron there, Liz, with his family, his wife Samantha. To the American people, she's perhaps not as well known, for example, as Cherie Blair was, the wife of Tony Blair. But he, from all accounts, is a family man, very close to his kids and his wife, and he sort of paid them tribute during his last remarks there.
Yes, Samantha Cameron, she's known here as Sam Cam, hasn't been very visible. She's looked after her family and has been a great pillar of promotion of volunteer work. But it might be a good moment to remind our viewers that David Cameron and Samantha had a very, very handicapped son called Ivan. And they had looked after him and at home, even though he had many disabilities, and he died while David Cameron was in office. And clearly the care of the family and the healing after that tragic event has occupied Samantha for the last 4 or 5 years.
And then again, there we see the Prime Minister's caravan making its way down the mall, rounding that roundabout on its way into Buckingham Palace. It's a beautiful walk or drive if anybody's ever had an opportunity to do it. There you see them entering into the gates of Buckingham Palace. So now, Liz, the PM will present his resignation to the Queen. Just give our viewers here in the U.S. a sense of how that goes and how then Theresa May is officially then the Prime Minister.
Well, David Cameron will go in and tell Her Majesty that he wishes to resign, and she'll ask him. It's a highly ritual ceremony because the Queen, although it is her parliament technically, she doesn't really have any power. But the ritual goes like this. He goes in and says, "I want to resign, Your Majesty," and she says, "Who is it that you want to replace you?" And he will say, "Theresa May." And then she will formally accept his resignation. He'll leave the palace, drive that short distance down Downing Street, and then it'll be Theresa May's turn. So there's a moment of time there where Britain has no prime minister. Theresa May, about an hour later, will go up into the same chamber in Buckingham Palace and present her respects to the Queen and ask if Her Majesty will consent to Theresa May forming the government. And the Queen will say, "Are you able to do it?" And Theresa May will be able to say yes, because the Conservative Party does have a majority in the House. And then it used to be a kissing of the hand of the monarch, or the incoming Prime Minister would kiss her hand, but we're told by palace insiders that these days it's just a handshake. They will have a little bit of small talk, and then Theresa May, as Britain's new Prime Minister, will emerge from Buckingham Palace, go back to Downing Street and go inside. That building, of course, is not only where government carries out a lot of important business, that's her new home, and she and her husband Philip will have moved in today, or at least their minions will have moved them in and filled the closets and so on, but as of today, that's where she lives.
It is quite remarkable, Liz, when you see just the transfer of government there in the United Kingdom vis-a-vis what we do here in the United States, the number of weeks and months it takes for the outgoing president before the new president comes in. It is something to see. Liz Palmer reporting for us just outside of Parliament. Liz, thank you so much.